One of the very organisations that commits a large amount of sexual assaults against adults and children is the very organisation that makes the decision on whether somebody stays on the sex offenders register or not. Now, some of you might already know this, but to be honest, it is news to me. Personally, I was under the impression that a judge needed to be the one who determines whether a court order could be rescinded or not. But it turns out that it's the police. As I've just said, one of the very organisations that commit a large amount of sexual assaults against adults and children is the organisation that makes the determination with apparently no involvement from the courts whatsoever. A recent Freedom of Information request has shown that Lincolnshire police have removed 72 people from the sex offenders register in the last 5 years. Some people who will be ordered to sign a register for life by a judge who has seen and heard the evidence in its entirety, heard from the victims and the suspects, and made a decision that they are so dangerous that they should be kept on the list for life. But after 15 years, these vile, cretinous, filthy oxygen thieves can apply to be removed from the list. And it seems someone in Lincolnshire police is more than happy to stamp approved on that request. In fact, between 2017 and 2021, Lincolnshire police received 82 requests and only denied 10 of them, as I say, without any input from a judge who imposed the order in the first place. It said that decisions to remove people from the College of Policing's barred list, the sex offenders register, is allegedly based on how likely the person is to re-offend, taking into account information from probation, prison services, councils and mental health support, and are approved only by a detective inspector and the head of protecting vulnerable people from the police force. And we all know what kind of track record they have of protecting people, don't we? Especially as many police actively seek out the vulnerable to prey on themselves. A spokesperson from Lincolnshire Police said that each case is assessed individually in consultation with a number of agencies, probation, prison, mental health and the local authority, to see if they hold any information that would prevent the offender being removed from their legal obligations. Now, the fact they were placed on that fucking list in the first place is a pretty big indicator that they shouldn't be removed from their legal obligations. Also, the fact a judge gave the order and you are only police who have no right to overturn a court order is also another pretty big indicator that they shouldn't be removed from their legal obligation. Their police manager then completes the relevant paperwork, which will include the current arms assessment, which is a structured assessment process to assess dynamic risk factors known to be associated with sexual reoffending and protective factors known to be associated with reduced offending, such as if they had ever worn a police uniform, or maybe if they had ever offended over a lengthy period of time, or if they had offended in a short period of time but prolifically. Obviously, these don't come into it because, well, reasons. This is then reviewed by a detective inspector who comments on the suitability before a final decision is made by the head of protecting vulnerable people. Well, to be fair, I for one am disgusted that convicted sex offenders who haven't proved that they were innocent and falsely accused or convicted are even given the chance to appeal their placement on the list, especially if they have been placed on there for life. Life should mean life, unless the person can prove they shouldn't have been put on the list in the first place. I mean, how many times do we hear of people in court for being caught for the umpteenth time for the same offending, even after they've been in jail? Where is the actual protection for society's most vulnerable when this is allowed to happen? Why are the police simply allowed to overturn a court order when they want, when it was imposed by a judge? A judge, by the way, being the only member of society who should be allowed to dish out punishment to people who aren't their family. In fact, I'm going to make a Freedom of Information request myself, asking for the number of people who have been removed from the sex offenders register in the past 5 years who have ended up re-offending. Let's see if we see any pattern going on there. I'll bring that information to you in a future report.